What a privilege it is to struggle for a life you actually want instead of settling for one you don't. That's arguably like my biggest fear, is this idea of settling for a mediocre life, a life I hate. You know, I don't understand the concept of settling. Like I don't get that. I don't understand how people can be content. And I'm not throwing shade at them. Like, look, everyone's different. I'm just saying, for me personally, that's not something that I feel that I can do. Right. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. As you can see, it's just me. I was going to do a show with Mr. Josh Leonard of the Pursuit of Infinity podcast, but unfortunately he's not able to join me today, so we'll probably push that show back to December. It's going to happen, don't worry. Josh is a very reliable guy. It's going to happen, and I can't wait to bring you that second installment of our conversation on spirituality. But for today, it's just me, and I was hoping to kind of save the solo episodes for next month, maybe even next year, which leads me on to my first point, which is no podcast guest. Which, prior to getting Josh on the show and a few other people that are lined up now, ironically, I started putting together the show notes for this particular podcast, which is a kind of a general podcast. I don't know if it's going to have a specific theme, but it's kind of me discussing life right now, and just various different things, random stuff. And as you know, when it comes to solo episodes, I've over the years tended to try and have like a deep dive on something specific, or at least have a topic. But sometimes, you know, you're just going to end up talking a bit of everything and kind of seeing where the conversation goes. And it's interesting, after doing this show for 5 years, it's crazy to think that I'm struggling to get guests. But, you know, it doesn't surprise me. You know, this year has had so many setbacks, rejections, and tough times. And it's just been constant and exhausting. And very much like my song, Just Existing, I have felt over the past year as though I'm just existing. It's kind of been like being in a boxing ring and just being endlessly punched in the face and just trying to get back up. You know, everyone around you keeps saying, get back up, come on, get back up. And it's like, eventually you just have no energy. Eventually you're just exhausted and you've got nothing left. And you have to rest or die. I don't know. I obviously hope it doesn't come to that, touch wood. But the point is, it's been a tough year. And it's heartbreaking when things don't work out and life is testing you a lot. And, you know, with the podcast, there's been a lot of compliments over the years from various people saying that they listen to the show and they love what I do. And, you know, to all those people who've ever listened to the show, who've appeared on the show, who've shown interest in the Christian Reeve podcast, I can only thank you enough. You know, I don't earn any money from this. I think I've spoken about this before, but I pay to produce this show as I do, you know, creating my music and such, which is pretty common for creatives, you know. But like, I've never made money from this, and it's never really been about making money. It's just, I've wanted to obviously have some progress over the years. And when you're not really making progress and you're struggling to kind of get consistent viewership or listenership, and then you get asked like, what's next for the show? You're like, well, I don't really know. Like, I've tried everything. And, you know, really it always just comes down to money and resources. You know, if you have those things, you can take your show to limits it's never seen before. Past the limits, you know what I mean? For example, there's shows that have just kind of appeared out of nowhere and already have the equipment and the look and the feel. And, you know, I don't have that. I make the best of what I have. You know, obviously I've invested in good microphones for podcasting and voice acting, and I've also invested in, you know, decent camera stuff, but it's not anywhere where it needs to be. And obviously I've not been able to do a physical show as of yet. But that doesn't stop me from wanting to try and wanting to keep going. Like, I refuse to give up on this. I'm just saying that it's kind of tricky sometimes to find the motivation to keep going when you're struggling with something as basic as just getting guests to come on the show. And after 5 years, 300 plus episodes, it's just a bit crazy, you know. But the show started out with me just talking, and if there's something I can do, it's talk. Maybe too much, I don't know. I'm trying to relax a bit on that these days and just kind of speak when I actually have something profound to say or interesting, or just, you know, just something to contribute rather than just talking for the sake of it. I hate the sound of my own voice anyway, contrary to popular belief. But it's obviously when you've got a show, you kind of have to talk, you know. Or if you know, when I'm doing my live streams, I have to talk. It's important. Otherwise, there's no content. And that's kind of really, when push comes to shove, the most important aspect, I feel, is always the content. You know, it doesn't matter how good your equipment is and the resources you have. If you don't have good content, you have nothing. And I take a lot of pride in producing this show and just my work ethic in general. And, you know, I have a goal for this show that maybe not everyone is aware of, that I wanted to do this show for at least 10 years. And we're about to enter year 6, which is crazy to think about, actually. 5 years of the show, entering year 6. I started this show because I loved podcasts, and I've been listening to podcasts for so many years, way before they got like popular. I just did it because I wanted to do a podcast. I felt like I had something to contribute, and I went from being, you know, a newbie that had no idea what he was doing to arguably being a veteran now. You know, I've seen so many podcasts come and go, and I'm still here like a disease, just latching on, carrying on. I refuse to give up. Even if the show gets like no views, listens at all, I'll still keep going. And maybe I'm just too stubborn and I don't know when to call it quits, but I don't believe in quitting. And I think if nothing else, I like having conversations with people, and I like sharing stories and storytelling, and I don't want that to stop. You know, for what it's worth, I enjoy doing this podcast, and I don't see any reason to stop. For why? Just because the show's not doing well? Well, most things in my life are not doing well, but, you know, I have a passion for them and I want to see them succeed, and you can't really do that if you give up. You know what I mean? Opportunities are not going to jump onto your lap. They come through hard work, grit, determination, refusal to give up, and being seen. And ironically, yeah, I'm not being seen, but I'm more likely to be seen if I'm trying versus if I'm not trying, then I'll never be seen. And, you know, it's like I've said before, like, I'm trying to just progress. You know, it's never been about fame or money or anything. It's just about being able to make a living through doing creative projects and getting better at that, and hopefully winning people over in the process. Moving on, I have reached a somewhat concerning point in my life where I have started just saying it is what it is, maybe a little bit too much. You know, when it's because I'm so used to things going wrong. I'm so used to hard times, things not working out, rejection, disrespect, and just kind of generally bad things piling up in my life, that I'm kind of reaching this point where it doesn't really faze me anymore. Like, I kind of just expect it to happen, and I end up saying it is what it is. Because I don't really know. There's nothing I can really do about these things that I'm not already doing. And if people ask me about it, I'm doing everything, and then they're just like, oh, okay, well, keep trying. And it's like, yeah, thanks. I keep trying to change my life, and I make the most of any and all free time I have. I mean, this is an example. I'm recording this on a Sunday, and I do find time to rest, but any time that's free time is time I can be getting things done. And I could have just decided to not do a podcast today because the podcast I'd planned isn't happening today. But I for the few people that do care and want to see a show, I want to give them a show, and I have stuff planned. I'm maybe an over prepper. I've been told I prepare too much, but I believe that if you're going to create a product or a show, you should really plan it out and have something that looks quite professional rather than just someone talking down a microphone for an indeterminate amount of time. Like, I've seen a lot of podcasts over the years try that, and just because you and your buddies have fun times doesn't make that a show. Like, you've still got you can tell your stories, you can put that together and make it a show, but you have to have structure. You have to have a show that's kind of segmented and leads into those things, rather than just like, oh, let's just sit here and shoot the shit and that's a show. Like, no, it's not. I've studied all the greats, all the best podcasters out there. I continue to, and I also study like the best interviewers that have been, and I really try my best to live up to their level and try to be better at all times. There's always room to improve, basically. So it's important, obviously, to use up your time. And it's a bit frustrating right now, especially this year, because I feel like all I do is work and I just never have money. And I'm kind of in this spiral. And a lot of the time I feel like I need like some sort of miracle for things to work out. But there's no point crying over things. At the end of the day, life is always going to change. Sometimes it takes longer than it should, but you can get to a point where things don't affect you anymore, and you can almost laugh at them. You can be aware of when hard times are coming, and it kind of helps you prepare for them, and I think it helps you to inform others and give advice to other people as well, because not everyone is ready to face those challenges. And I don't know, I feel like in many ways I'm kind of unbreakable. When I look at my life and what I've dealt with, like this year is not even the worst year I've ever had. It's just been, I'd say it's been a bad year because there's just too many things going wrong at the same time, and it's very difficult to handle all of them, or to even kind of know where to start. When it's all kind of just destroyed and all over the place, it's like, what do I do? But I know what I shouldn't do, which is bury my head in the sand or give up or just sit there and cry about it. I've been through all the emotions, I've done all the things. Now it's just a case of finding the motivation to keep going and perhaps reinvent. And I don't know what that really looks like, but I do know that things are going to move forward regardless of whether or not I do. And I think that's why it's important to embrace that and to move with the times. The past doesn't matter because the past is dead, it's buried, it's done. The future is yet to be written and we can't see it anyway. So all that matters is this moment and what we're doing right now. So there it is. I've got some stuff about struggle here from a quote book. So some of you might recognize this. It's a quote book that I was gifted. It was blank, and I've been filling it up slowly. I've got about 126 quotes in here. And I thought I would talk about struggle because I found some really good quotes that I thought I might expand upon a little bit, and maybe it might give you an idea of how I see struggle and how I'm learning to kind of embrace it as much as I can. So here's a quote. What a privilege it is to struggle for a life you actually want instead of settling for one you don't. That's arguably like my biggest fear, is this idea of settling for a mediocre life, a life I hate. You know, I don't understand the concept of settling, or, you know, what is it, like being content? Like I don't get that. I don't understand how people can be content. And I'm not throwing shade at them. Like, look, everyone's different. I'm just saying, for me personally, that's not something that I feel that I can do. And, you know, I've tried a normal life in the past, and it's never worked out. It's always ended like pretty, it's always been catastrophic. And I think it's by design. You know, I don't think I'm supposed to be that kind of person. It's not who I am. It's not what my life is supposed to be. But I'm also, I know what I love to do in life, and I know what I don't like to do in life. And I'm very clear on those things. I feel like my goals are very clear, but I don't know, everything future-wise just seems like a blank canvas. Like, it could go either way, and there's really no way of knowing. But this bit about struggling for a life you actually want and how that's a privilege, like, I completely agree. I think that sometimes it's easy to lose sight of that when you're struggling, because like some people never get to pursue these things. Like, for whatever reason, there's just blockades in the way, barriers in the way that prevent them from being able to pursue their goals, whatever they may be. And so yes, it is a privilege to try. Not everyone gets this chance. Some people are trapped in lives they never chose. You're fighting for a future that feels right to your soul. It's kind of expanding on what I just said, but also, like, when I think about what resonates with me and what doesn't, like, I could never be passionate about like a customer service job or a marketing job because they don't inspire me. You know, I see all the problems. I see how underpaid people are, how disrespected people get treated, how exhausted you are mentally, physically, emotionally after every single shift. Some shifts are better than others, but most of them, you know, you're not working, you're surviving. You're trying to just get through it and get the money. But sometimes, you know, you get to the end of it and you've been taxed like crazy, and there's never enough money, and prices go up, and you're just disrespected. You know, like I worked a dinner the other day, and it was for a company that was very vain, superficial kind of vibes. Lots of people in the audience that were like that. Not everyone, most people were lovely, but there was a few just rude people. And look, people have been rude to me a million times over. You know, if you've ever worked in customer service, I mean, people being rude is like the rain in Manchester. It's just something that you expect. But there are every now and again just moments where it kind of hits you. And I don't know if that's because like you're desperately trying to get away from this life that you don't want to lead, or you hate how people undermine you or make you feel lesser than, or the fact that, you know, like the goals aren't working out, the dreams ain't becoming a reality. And you know, for me, like I keep getting older, and people are like, "Oh, is this your career?" And I'm like, "No, it's not. It's never been my career." And it's sad to feel like it even could be. Nothing against the job. A job is a job, but it's just I could never do the things I love as a hobby. You know, you don't sacrifice blood, sweat, and tears and everything that you have for a hobby. When it's in your soul, when it's who you are, nothing else will do. And it's exhausting, but I would rather suffer and struggle and seemingly be chasing a dream that most people think is a pipe dream, then accept a life of mediocrity and misery and know forever that, you know, I'm destined for misery. Like, what is the point in that? That makes no sense at all. Your struggle is not a punishment. It's a sign that you refuse to live on autopilot. Most people never even try. This one hit me so hard. I've met a lot of people over the years who maybe are insecure or they don't realize their potential. And it's really sad when people don't realize their potential, especially when you can see it. You can see in them something special that they don't see. Like just the other day, I was trying to push a friend of mine into doing more arty stuff because she's fantastic. She's got an eye for it, and I know she wants to do something, but it's not clear exactly what. And I gave her a few examples. Well, you could do this, you could do this. Like, what about this? And all I know for definite is we're both in the same boat as far as hating the jobs that we have and feeling like almost like failures. But, you know, I always liken it to the whole trapped bird thing. You know, the bird is not meant to be trapped in a cage. It's meant to fly. And I feel like that's ultimately what it feels like to be a creative. You just want to fly. You want to soar. You want to share art and really touch people's souls and inspire and make people feel something and make people remember what it means to be alive. You know, that's what really matters. You could have played it safe. You could have stayed comfortable. You could have listened to everyone else, but you didn't. If I had £1 for every time someone turned around to me and said, oh, how's your hobby going? Or, you know, are you having fun? Or, you know, oh, don't you think you should play it safe and get a real job? Or blah, 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 blah. Like, it's just same old, same old, same old. They just don't get it. And then there's different reasons. Maybe they never chased their dreams. Maybe they live a life of contentment. Maybe they're afraid. Maybe they were afraid to chase their dreams. I don't know. I'm not in their head. I just know that for me, I know exactly what I want my life to look like. And the worst part about it is, as well, and maybe the best part simultaneously, is I've had a taste of it. I've done acting and been paid for it. I've done voice acting and been paid for it. I've done music and been paid for it. And whenever I got paid to do these things, it kind of, in my head, reaffirmed the fact that I am a professional and not just an amateur. You know, it was always an honor, and it is always an honor every single time that I get an opportunity to do something creative and I get paid for it. But even if I don't, it's still an honor. It's still an opportunity. It's still something I live and breathe and you know what I mean? Like, if someone said, hey, do you want to play a gig, and it's not paid, I'll do it for free. I'd rather get paid, but I'd do it for free because I love performing music so much. Whereas if someone said, hey, do you want to work a day at the hotel for free? Like, hell no. You know, and that's the difference, really. One day you'll look around and realize you built a life that feels like you, and every struggle will make sense. So all of these particular quotes have been from a company or a brand called Mental Aspect. Give them a shout out. This quote, I think about this a lot. I think about the past and where the past has led me to. Yeah, people say that things never change sometimes, or that you get stuck in a rut. I can honestly say that my life has changed for the better. It's not where I want it to be, and I'm not happy, but I'm definitely happier than I was. I know what it feels like to truly feel trapped. I no longer feel trapped anymore. I feel like I have the ability to control my life again. But it's always a risk. I continue, every day is a risk. You know, like, I don't even know if I'm going to have work next year. But there's a weird sense of excitement in that, in the possibility, in the fact that you never know where your next paycheck is going to be. You never know how it's going to work out, but you know somehow it will work out. Somehow, some way, it will work out. And it's so much better than just being locked in to something you can't change. It's just something about that, like, don't know, I can't put it into words, but I really feel like there's something there. And sometimes when I'm really struggling with things, and I'm concerned about how much I'm going through and the struggle in general, I like to think about where my life might be in 5-10 years from now. I like to jokingly imagine myself on an interview with someone prominent, and they're interviewing me about my life, and they're talking about this time now, and they're like, oh, do you remember when you were struggling like this, and what did you learn? And I've got so many stories, so many things I could say. I really feel like if I did ever make it, I'd have a story that might resonate with a lot of people and might inspire other people to never give up. Because that's where I'm at right now. I'm in this kind of feeling of desperation, but I can't give up. I just can't. I won't. I refuse. And whenever I think about how much I want it, like, I want it bad. I want it more than anyone, maybe. That's a bold thing to say. I don't know. Giving up is not in my vocabulary. Let's put it that way. Moving on. Next year will be my 6th year in Manchester. 6 years. So much has happened. I've changed a lot during that time. No single year in those 5-6 years looks the same. And, you know, I think that's important because I think the minute your life becomes monotonous, that's when you've got a big problem. Like you need to keep changing. Life needs to keep changing and evolving. It's really important. I don't know if I'm going to stay here. I don't think so. I think potentially next year might be my last year in Manchester. I feel like it's time to move on. Has the city been good to me? I don't know. It's been the source of pain and struggle, but also opportunity as well. Lots of opportunity. This is the city that I made my first album in. This is the city that gave me opportunities to be on, to further my acting career, to meet artists and get inspired again, that got me back into music in a way that I'd not really felt about it for quite some time. Overall, I would say it's been a positive experience. There's been a lot of hard times, but, you know, maybe you have to go through those hard times to really get the most out of yourself and out of life in general. So there it is. The state of the UK job market. I mentioned before that I am facing potential unemployment next year. And this is like several years in a row now, because I've been going for like casual jobs, part-time jobs, stuff like that. And, you know, loads of people have said to me, like, why don't you just get full-time work? Why don't you just get something, you know, reliable? And it's like, well, that takes all my time, therefore all my ability to do what I need to do creatively. Taking a full-time job would essentially mean me giving up, which just, again, like I spelled out before, is just simply not an option. But moreover, like I just see a lot of problems, gaping problems with the whole full-time setup. Like I remember when I was doing marketing and I transitioned to freelance marketing, I realized pretty quickly that like a standard 40-hour marketing job is such a waste of time, because you can get most of the work done generally in the first couple of hours of the day, and then you're just sitting around waiting for work, you know. And obviously the busier your company is, the less likely that is to happen. But I worked for international companies and that happened regularly, whereas when I was freelance, like I got to work for a particular project, say intensively for like a couple of weeks, and then it was done and I didn't have to work again for like a month. And obviously I've always been looking for work anyway, just because I like to be busy, but there's a lot of freedom in that, and it really opened my eyes about how just illogical and ineffective the 9-to-5 is. I feel like it's only really necessary if you're trying to make the best of time zones and differences, if you're doing international business, or, you know, if you're doing some sort of sales position and you need to reach people within a specific time. But even that, like sales, like often you're doing your core sales and business when most people are working. You know, it's like the whole postal service thing, like, oh yeah, we'll deliver your post when you're not home, but we can't deliver it when you will be home, so go figure. Same with GP appointments, you know, same thing. You got to take a day off to sit on the phone from like 8 in the morning to hopefully get a same day appointment. And if you don't get one, you got to go through that trouble all over again. It's bullshit. But bringing it back to looking for part-time work, you know, I'm trying to just find work that will just not tie me down, but which will give me regular income, you know. And if I'm not going to get money in creative endeavors, then I've got to get money from somewhere. But the job market right now is just flooded with scam jobs, dodgy companies, volunteer jobs that want you to essentially do full-time work for free. Like, what the fuck? Or jobs that just want you to sign your life away. There's really not much of variety now, and there's serious unemployment issues in this country right now. But even someone like myself that's got a lot of experience, it doesn't make a difference. I mean, to give you an idea of my experience level, I have 11 years combined experience in customer service. Everything from like retail, supermarket retail, hotel work, barista work, bartending, you know, everything you can imagine I've done in hospitality and customer services. I have like 6 years experience in marketing. I have a degree in marketing. I've done sales and recruitment. I've been an actor and voice actor for the last 6 years. I've done music for like 21 years, and, you know, I've performed regularly and been paid for it and have music out. And obviously the podcast, I think it represents maybe broadcasting experience to an extent. There's a lot of potential there, but it doesn't mean anything in the job market. You know, they always want more. And it's just exhausting, man. And it's very much a very hard time in the UK, just trying to survive and navigate these hard times with inflation constantly going up and, you know, prices going up and wages either staying the same or just never increasing, or increasing by such a pitiful amount that doesn't make a difference anyway. It's just hard times, man. I don't know how else to put it. Something I want to sort of move on to is the UK quality epidemic. So what I'm seeing more and more is that many fast food restaurants, chains and popular restaurants in the UK, have increased their prices and dramatically decreased the quality of their products and services. And over the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a lot of change on this front. And in my opinion, it seems like we're all just being scammed. You know, these companies in question appear to only care about cutting costs and getting more money. And yeah, I know that's nothing new with the corporate world, but it's just ridiculous. Like, there's companies, especially like restaurants, that haven't changed in like 20 years, but their services have gone down, and there's less staff, and the quality of their food is terrible, and yet people are paying way more money for it. And those prices are in line with current inflation and where the UK economy is. But it's like, at a time like this, if you're trying to get people to part with their money, surely the quality has to be the best it can possibly can be. Or like, things have to be like reimagined. I don't know what the word would be. You have to revise those prices and maybe either be a luxury company that's aiming for the very top end and delivering that high level of service, or you need to make your everything about deals and actually have deals that are worth it, and, you know, give people savings. You know, it's one or the other. I think right now I don't feel like there's much room for like the middle right now in the UK. But really, to me it feels like the UK general public is not bothered about the decrease in standards. And in my mind, getting as much value as possible for your money is really important. And I always felt like in the UK, we were on top of that. You know, I always felt like we go for the cheaper companies. We go for good value for money. and there are a lot of people that still do pursue that, but it feels like a lot of people just don't mind paying astronomical prices. It's like they're just happy to eat it, like it's, oh, it's just how things are right now. And it's like nothing will ever change if we don't start boycotting or, responding to the lack of service in a kind of productive way. If we just allow them to operate this way, then things will never change for the better. And I just don't understand why people put up with it. I really don't. Moving forward, AI, artificial intelligence. I've spoken about artificial intelligence for so many years now, way before everything that's been happening, even in the last couple of years. But I've been one of the people, I guess, criticizing AI, and not because of its potential, but more because of how people use it. I think the problem is not AI, the problem is how humans are using AI. AI is here to stay, whether you like it or not. I have mixed feelings about it. I've always been upfront with my criticism. I do think it has its uses. But for me, the key issue is how lazy it's making people. And people have never needed an excuse to be lazy, but it's just making people even more lazy. For example, I've seen endless adverts on YouTube about using AI tools to create singing voices. Like this thing, was it co-producer they call it? And I just think it's pointless and soulless. Like, in my opinion, one of the best things about being an artist is practicing, getting better over time, understanding your sound more, and growing. It took me the better part of 10 years to become a confident and versatile singer. But it was practice, determination, and hard work that got me there, not just sitting and using Melodyne or auto-tune to make things better, or being lazy, or just being like, oh, that'll do, or getting AI to sing for me. Like one of the tools I saw, basically it takes your voice and pitch corrects it and gives it like a better sounding voice. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? I don't want computer generated music. I want music with soul. It's fine to use AI to help as like an assistant for things. I use AI as an assistant for the podcast, but I don't use AI to create a podcast. I use it as a tool. I don't use it as just like, oh, make a podcast for me and I'll just sit here and just do nothing. Like that, fuck that. You can't tell me that you can achieve the same level of satisfaction after sitting behind a computer for an hour and prompting the computer to do everything for you. Like, where is the challenge? When I think about when I made my album, it took me like 14 days of hard studio time, and then a lot longer than that to really shape it, plan the promotion, plan all the other things I was going to do for it, like the music videos and the photography for it, and then the behind the scenes documentary. Like, a lot of time and effort went into all of it, and I look back on it with pride. It doesn't matter that it's not got the numbers I wanted. None of that shit matters. What matters is the time and effort, and the fact that I did that, and no one can ever take that away from me. I can always look back, regardless of what the future brings, and go, I made an album. I did an album. I didn't ask a computer to do it for me. I was sat there in the studio with people making it. And there it is. I'm not saying that AI doesn't have a place in content creation, because it can be a fantastic tool for various things. I mean, I've mentioned, like, I use AI as a tool to help me create show notes, and I use it for podcast clips because I just simply don't have the time to sit there making the clips. And it's been invaluable with that. Like, honestly, shout out to Riverside. This isn't a paid sponsorship. I don't get anything for this, but I recently moved from this being like a Zoom podcast to this being a Riverside podcast, I guess. And I can't tell you how much it's changed the show for the better, and just given me time, and also the ability to edit in a way that I'd never been able to before. And it just feels like a new chapter for the show, you know? It really feels like an assistant rather than me just handing over my show to a computer and letting the computer do it for me. Like originally, I was using tools like ChatGPT for planning when I was struggling for some ideas for questions and things. But I also have used it as like a base template for writing articles or giving like an idea of pointers of where something can go. You know, I think it's useful when you use it in that manner, because you're still using your brain and engaging with your brain and planning and creating things. You're just using AI as a starting point, you know, like a hint, if you like, in a video game, or just kind of like something to help you, I don't know, like move forward. You know, if you're stuck, sometimes you just need that little push, and I think AI is very useful for that. Ultimately, though, right now, too many people are using it as a replacement for genuine creativity or work, and I don't understand that. You know, when I think of everything that I've achieved in my life, it's like I said with the album, like I look back with pride because I think about the effort and the time and the sacrifices that were made to achieve those goals. There are no sacrifices with AI. You know, you just sit there, input your prompt, and that's it. And that's soulless. When I think about how I grew, what I gained from the experiences of making an album, making a podcast, whatever, I think about what I learned. I don't think that you learn anything from allowing computers to essentially live your life for you. And I think that's the real danger that society is ignorant to when it comes to AI. When you talk about societal dangers, I think we're very much headed towards a world like in WALL-E, for example, where humans, you know, they just let computers do everything for them, and they consume and they don't grow, they don't, you know, and like, what is the point of being human if not to work on yourself and create and be better than you were and learn and have something to teach your children, your grandchildren, whatever, and to experience the world, you know, to test yourself, to discover what you can be and discover all these ways that maybe you underestimated yourself. I feel like that's a big part of the human experience, is understanding just how strong you are and what you have to give to the world. And you just can't do that by relying on AI. It's quite scary. Like, I think these newer generations are really going to struggle, and people are struggling now because they're not testing themselves, they're not growing, they're not learning, they're just absorbing stuff, slop content, if you like. Let's talk about Sora as an example. Sora is a program that has recently hit the scene, and people are using it in all sorts of ways. Right now, you can spot that these videos are AI, but we're not that far off the level of AI that will be completely indistinguishable from real videos. Many people are already fooled, and that's concerning. But I can see why. Voice inflections, facial mannerisms, faces and bodies in general, and the atmosphere in these videos are all reaching a highly realistic level right now. Like, I think the first ones that truly stood out to me were the street interview ones, where they were able to like recapture that feeling of being on like a busy street and the sound the microphones would make in that situation. They really kind of created that atmosphere accurately, and it was funny and interesting, but also kind of terrifying in a way. From what I understand, with Sora, you have to agree to allow Sora to use your likeness, and many people are using famous people's likenesses. Some content creators and celebrities have threatened to sue Sora on the basis of defamation. I think legally there might be grounds for that, but this is completely foreign territory since it's all new and hasn't been figured out yet from the law and content usage rights perspective. And this is a huge one with AI. It's just been thrown out there into the world, and there's no regulations, there's no laws, there's no restrictions, and that's really terrifying as far as like where it could go from a legal standpoint. Elsewhere, I saw this program called Descript, where you can replicate your voice using AI. I have avoided any and all projects where they require you to replicate your voice, and I'm concerned as to why people would willingly sign over their rights to companies to use their voices. I mean, there's so many things that could go wrong down the line with that. For instance, criminals could use your voice to implicate you in crimes you never committed. They could do the same with things like Sora, like technologies like that. If we have a system where it's proven that the owner of the voice has handed over the rights to their voice, we could make an argument for voice usage rights, and this could also prevent criminals from stealing voices to use for nefarious means. Yes, criminals will attempt to do so regardless, but I just think it's crazy to willingly hand over the rights to your voice. Moreover, with this usage of voice replication, it kind of furthers my argument about laziness as it pertains to the usage of AI. Why not just re-record a section with your voice? Why do you have to create a computer program to do so? Like, unless someone has passed away, like the voice of Darth Vader, for example, like he signed over his rights, James Earl Jones signed over his rights to the voice, and that's how they've been able to replicate his voice. I think they used it in the Obi-Wan series. What you hear of the Darth Vader voice in that is entirely a combination of archive voice and then AI put together. But the point is, he and his estate signed that over, and his estate still makes money from that. His family will still receive royalties for the use of that. It's still scary that the voice is being used. He can't control how they use it, but at least he has kind of legally like protected himself, or his estate has protected itself, kind of, you know, and there's no culpability, I guess, because it's been signed over. In the past, I remember one project that I did, I got paid. It was weird because normally you sign the contract first, you get paid second. But I had produced some voiceovers for some client, and they paid me, and then they got me to sign the contract afterwards. And I always read contracts like heavily. You know, I go through them. I'm very particular about contracts because I want to know what I'm signing over. And I'm very well aware that with voice acting, you know, I've spoken about it on the podcast before. If you look up various episodes of the podcast, I've spoken about voice acting with different people and on my own on this specific topic. And you've probably heard me speaking about this before, but in that particular instance, I read the contract and refused to sign on the basis that they wanted to use my voice and replicate my voice. I said, I will not sign this unless you remove this from the contract. And they said, that's fine, but when we send you this new version, we probably won't be able to use your voice. We'll probably have to use someone else. And I'm like, fine, but you're not going to own my voice. Like, that's not happening. Because this is the thing as well. Like, if you do that, like, why do they need you anymore? Once they've trained a voice model to a certain level, like, you're meaningless now, and you've just signed over your voice for like a couple of grand. They're going to make millions with that. Do you think you're going to see any of that money? Hell no. You're not going to see any of that. And that's truly terrifying. Moving on. Recently, I started getting lost in the whole 1984 dystopian world rabbit hole thing. And I remember seeing the clear comparisons between the real world and the book when I was reading the book, and then also watching the film after the fact, but more so with the book. For instance, this cancelling trend that exists in society, I mean, it's kind of fizzling out now, but it's still kind of there. That constant revision of what you can and cannot say feels like we're headed towards a heavily controlled society, like more so than we ever have been in the past. Like, it would be foolish to not see how we're already monitored and manipulated, as it's been happening all of our lives. But now we're tied with technology in a way that seems irreversible. So it seems like we're beholden to whatever the system decides. For example, if people don't agree or actively reject the prevailing and agreed upon narrative, they are admonished, rejected, a target of ridicule, and so on. Humans will never fully agree on everything, and we will always clash. But we can find a way to coexist without destroying each other. That must be possible. As George Orwell famously stated, don't let it happen, it's up to you. I truly feel as though the responsibility of shaping, moulding, and ultimately saving our world falls on all of our shoulders, and we have to do whatever we can to prevent our freedom from being taken away from us. So pay attention and don't lose sight of what is important. Moving on, leaving toxicity behind. Much like spring cleaning, sometimes you got to throw things out, shed your skin like a snake, and move on. If you never do, you'll crumble under the weight of it all and fall victim to the poison. Toxic people and toxic places will begin to affect you if you spend too much time around them. Like the old saying goes, we are who we choose to spend time with. We become our surroundings. Therefore, it's important to know when to move on in your life and to take a step in the right direction. If you don't, you never will, and you risk becoming stuck in a vicious pattern. And it's taken me quite a long time to realize what I've had to remove from my life. But ever since I did, I felt a great weight lifted off of my shoulders. And I also feel like I'm back to where I need to be. You know, what I need to be doing, who I am. I guess I spent too much time trying to connect with people and fit in and make friends. And one thing I've always been really is a lone wolf. I've never fit in. I don't think I'm supposed to fit in. I think I'm supposed to be an outlier. I'm supposed to be that person that's not included. I used to always see that as a bad thing, but now I'm starting to see it as a good thing. My circle is a lot tighter now. There's only a few people in it, and I think that that's important for self-preservation, for protection. I think that it's something I never realized was a problem until recently. And of course, like, you know, when you go through really, really difficult times, as the old saying goes, like, you learn who your friends are. But I learned it recently in a really brutal way. And I decided to react to that. And I just feel better as a result of that, of having done that. Like, I feel lighter. And I can't see that as a coincidence. You know, I feel like that was the right thing to do. Moving on. Leaving before the main act arrives at a gig. This has always been a pet peeve of mine. I don't think this is a new phenomenon. I've noticed at many shows people will come to see a support band and then immediately leave before the main act even comes on. I'm confused by this behavior. Like, if you don't know the main act, surely be curious. Like, you've paid for your ticket, so why not discover some new music? And I think the same is true the other way around as well. But I was in the queue for Men I Trust, and there were people there to see Liana Flores, and she was absolutely incredible. I felt like I got to see two headliner acts, to be honest. I was over the moon. But it struck me as odd to see like how many people either didn't know who the main act was or had never listened to them. And even in the run up to the gig, I was thinking, like, surely you'd want to have an idea of what you're going to be listening to. Like, I checked out the support act, I checked out who Liana was, and I realized, oh, it's the girl who did Rises the Moon. Awesome. But I didn't like deep dive into her music. I just went to the show, saw everything that she was doing and fell in love with the music, bought the album, and then realized like what she's doing now is even better than what she did before. And I became a fan in that moment, you know. And I guess my point with all of this is, why wouldn't you keep yourself open to new music? You know, you never know what you're going to discover next. And part of the beauty of going to live shows is you're always going to encounter new artists. There's always going to be a support act that you've never heard of. It's just something exciting, you know? I love discovering new music. It's just more people to listen to, and you go down a rabbit hole and you just start discovering other similar artists. I mean, there's so much music out there, you know? It's just so much. It's exciting. I don't know. For me, it's exciting. The final thing I want to talk about is my album, my debut album, Second Chances. This month, I will have been promoting my music for a year. I think we're 10 days away now, or 9 days away from 365 days. So that'll mark 365 days since the release of my first single, Bad Times, which I believe was released on November 20th, 2024. And in March 28th, I believe, I released my album, Second Chances. Reflecting on the album, I mean, I've been lucky enough to have fulfilled a bunch of music goals with this project. You know, I've performed the album in its entirety live, which was incredible. I've been paid to play gigs around the country, and I recorded and released a behind-the-scenes documentary for the album. I released 3 music videos, a cinematic music video, an in-studio clip-style video, and then a one-shot, one-take video. And that was really cool because I saw a lot of artists do that when I was growing up, and I always wanted to do these things. So to actually get to do it myself was incredible, you know. I've managed to reach people all around the world with my music, which is crazy. I mean, there's people in America, Australia, all around Europe, some parts of Asia, New Zealand that have heard my music. That's crazy to me that people have taken the time to check out the music. Same with the podcast, everything else I do. Like, thank you to everyone around the world that's listened to my music, that's checked out the podcast, that's checked out my acting. Thanks for all of your support. Mind-blowing is the word I would use. I think I would have liked to have seen the album go further. I'm kind of gutted that it didn't. But if this year has taught me anything, oh my God, it's taught me many, many, many life lessons. But if it's taught me anything, it's to appreciate everything you have, no matter how small. And I'm grateful to every person who bought my album, who streamed it, who shared it with friends, shared it online, and everything in between. Thank you so much. Thank you for showing interest in my music. I don't know what the future holds for me in music. I just know that I'm always working on releasing new music and keeping things moving forward. So that's really everything. Look out next year for new music from me. In 2026, you will hear new music from me. I'm also working on writing album number 2. No idea when I'm going to record that, but I'm working on it. I'm writing the songs as we speak, so that's pretty cool. The podcast will continue. Obviously, it will go into its 6th year, so look out for bigger and better podcasts moving forward. Always looking for guests, so if you have guest suggestions or you'd like to put yourself forward for the show, check out the links in the bio, or check out my website, christianreeve.com/links, and you can find a link to apply for the show there, and we can look at getting you on the show. Obviously, there's ways to support me if you would like. christianreeve.com/links. You can find all the links for different ways you can support me, different ways you can find out about my latest projects, and everything in between. You can, of course, join the Discord as well. And you can subscribe to my Patreon and get yourself access to bonus content, even bonus content from the podcast. Thank you so much for watching, for listening to the Christian Reeve podcast. And until next time, peace.